Alrighty, so we are now one day closer from decision day as we have another full slate of MLS action, as I believe we're now into week number 31 or week number 32 of the MLS season. Either way, we're going to have 11 games that's going to be happening on Saturday, which is what this preview is going to be all about. Looking at all 11 games that's going to be happening tomorrow, and then tomorrow I will be doing the preview of the Sunday game that will happen on Sunday, where there's going to be 3 games that's going to happen. But let us start off with the first game out of the 11 game action. And, this week, in terms of the Saturday action, I mean, it's been kind of typical in terms of the early season of how, remember, early in the season, we tend to have like a couple of matinee games, and then we tend to have a lot of night games. That is exactly what we're going to get in terms of the Saturday action. And the first one is none other than the New York Derby between NYCFC versus the New York Red Bulls. That will start at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 1:08 p.m. local time. Now, what's interesting about this New York Derby, it's not on national television, which I kind of find it strange because, when I saw that this game was an early kickoff, I was assuming, okay, maybe it's going to be on ABC or maybe on ESPN or even on FS1, but no, it's not on national television. It's just going to be on regional television. And in terms of the all-time meeting in the New York Derby, the Red Bull still owns the all-time record with a 13-3-7 record over NYCFC. Now, key points coming into this New York Derby is that both of these teams have won twice in the New York Derby, and there's been one draw in the last 5 New York Derbys, which basically tells you that, yeah, this Derby has started to get a lot closer than it was in the beginning. Remember how the Red Bulls always tends to win this Derby when both of these teams face off against each other in the first couple of meetings? That now has changed. It seems like NYCFC has started to be more competitive in this Derby, and that include them getting a 1-0 away win the last time they play against the Red Bull at Red Bull Arena. And despite the fact that this is a game where, or actually despite that NYCFC won the Companies Cup, they still lost 7 out of their last 10, so they're still kind of in that bad run of form. But like I mentioned, that Companies Cup can definitely help them, or that Companies Cup win that they got can definitely help them in terms of turning around their fortune in the league. And the Red Bulls, they have one of the best away record in MLS. In fact, the best away record right now with 9-3-3 record, and they actually tied with the most wins besides the Philadelphia Union for the most away win this season. So this is a team that does very well on the road, and against a team that is struggling at home, or struggling in these last couple of games. You would say that the Red Bulls would be the favorites coming into this one, but that being said, NYCFC have also been very strong in terms of playing at Yankee Stadium. I mean, despite the struggle that they had, and a lot of the struggle that they've been having is really because they haven't been playing at Yankee Stadium, and we know that that is a stadium. As much as you can create a lot of memes and a lot of jokes about the stadium, NYCFC would feel like that should be the stadium that they play their home games, because they feel more comfortable than playing at Citi Field or especially Red Bull Arena. So it should be an interesting matchup. And again, I know NYCFC, you would think that they were going to have a Companies Cup hangover, which that's why I thought it was going to be. But then I think this New York Derby probably puts in a perfect timing, because I don't think they're going to have a hangover. When it comes to playing against your rival, you're always going to be up for it when you're playing against your rival. And I'm pretty sure NYCFC, as much as they're happy that they won a trophy on Wednesday, they want nothing more to get another one over their hated rival across the state. But that being said, moving on, in the next match, we got Atlanta United versus the Philadelphia Union. This game will start at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 3:50 p.m. local time, which means that when you have that kind of kickoff time, unfortunately, this game is going to be on Twitter. But again, this is, I think, one of the last time that we're going to see an MLS game that's going to be on Twitter. If not, maybe this might be the last time we're going to see it, because I think we have one more big weekends of action in a couple of weeks as we head into the September international break. But yeah, if this is potentially the last time that we're going to see a Twitter game, good riddance. That's all I'll say about that. But coming into this game, the Union is 18-9-4, and Atlanta United 10-9-12, and are fighting for their playoff lives. All-time meeting, the Union does have a slight lead, 5-3-4 over Atlanta. And the key points coming into this one, the Union, well, they are just red hot right now. I mean, actually, red hot is an understatement, because they have won 5 in a row and have been an absolute absolutely unstoppable in the last 5 games, scoring 23 goals in the process. They're basically a free scoring team in the last 5 games. Whereas for Atlanta United, they are 2 points below the red line, but in some way they have now got themselves back in the conversation. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, it was definitely looking dire for Atlanta. It looked like they were not going to make it, especially with a lot of off-field situation involving a certain captain of their team. But it seems like back-to-back wins all of a sudden have got themselves back into the conversation. Although again, they still need to overtake a couple of teams ahead of them, and not to mention, even though they're 2 points below the red line and 2 points behind Columbus, they do play one more game than the Columbus Crew, so they still need some help from them, and also hoping that the team above them, Inter Miami, will also drop points. But yeah, this is a big game for Atlanta United, and it's not going to be an easy one because, like I said, nobody has been able to stop the Philadelphia Union in the last 5 games. But with Atlanta, seems like they have finally found that belief that they can maybe sneak into the playoffs. You know, if they can get a big win in this one, then yeah, you know that they are definitely a team that could be threatened to go above the red line. And I'm pretty sure that, again, whenever you have these kind of matchup where it's a good team versus a team that's fighting for playoffs, if you're those teams that are fighting for playoffs or are kind of like rivals in terms of fighting for those playoff position with Atlanta United, you know you'll be rooting for the Union hard. So if you're a fan of Inter Miami or Columbus Crew, all those teams that's battling for those playoff position, you know that they're going to be rooting for Philadelphia Union in this game. But that being said, moving on in the next match, and speaking of another team that is battling for playoff position, is the New England Revolution versus Montreal. So this is another matchup where a team that is battling for playoff position is facing against a relatively good team that is Montreal, with a 17-5-9 record, while New England 9-11-11 is their record. This game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. All-time meeting is a 15-3-11 record in favor of New England, but the key points coming into this game, the Revs are 3 points below the red line, and after such a disappointing loss that they had against the Houston Dynamo, all of a sudden now they're up against a little bit. And again, you talk about how I said earlier that it's not going to be easy for Atlanta to beat the Union because the Union has been kind of unstoppable in the last 5 games. Same goes with Montreal. They have been unstoppable on the road. I mean, they have started to quietly becoming one of the most hard, one of the toughest teams to beat on the road, having win 5 in a row on the road in the last 5 games, and that's something that I don't think we have seen. Well, we have seen the Red Bulls did it earlier this season, but that's something we don't see happen a lot in MLS. Like, we talk about road games are always the one that is tough to win. Montreal are acting like it's child's play. I mean, they have won 5 in a row on the road, and they're definitely still red hot. And you know, I know they probably won't catch the Philadelphia Union, but they're trying to secure home field advantage and secure that second seed. So yeah, they'll definitely be up for it in this one. And not to mention, I don't know if they do have kind of that rivalry with New England, because you know both of these teams are not that far in terms of proximity, but you know, for the Revs, they definitely wants to get a win. And I mean, after what happened in the last game against the Dynamo, where they were looking as flat as it gets, and if they have any shots in terms of making the playoffs, they have to win this one. And we'll see whether they do so against a relatively good Montreal team. But moving on, in the next match, we got Orlando City versus Toronto FC, as Orlando have a 12-6-12 record, and TFC have a 9-7-15 record, as this game will start at the same time as the game between New England and Montreal. All-time meeting, TFC actually does have the all-time meeting lead, 8-3-5 over Orlando. But for Orlando, you know, it's time for that U.S. Open Cup hangover to be over, because they're only 3 points above the red line. And I talked about earlier how teams like Columbus and Cincinnati, the two Ohio teams, they need to watch out because they're still not really that far away from the red line. Same can be said about Orlando City. I mean, it looked like it was comfortable a couple of weeks ago when they, of course, got a couple of wins, and then they won the U.S. Open Cup. But ever since that, it's been back-to-back losses, and they're trying to avoid to do it in this one. Especially, it's not going to be easy with the way that for Toronto, yeah, this is pretty much a must-win game for them. I mean, I know their playoff hope is pretty much done after they lost to Atlanta United in a game that, you know, whoever lost that one most likely have their playoff hope being done. But, you know, they will be eliminated if they do lose this game to Orlando City. And again, even though they don't have a lot of playoff hope left, they'll definitely try to fight and continue to stay alive for another week, and we'll see whether they can do so against an Orlando City team that, like I said, it's great that they won U.S. Open Cup, but it's now really think about getting back to league play and getting that focus, because it doesn't take a lot for them to drop below the red line if they do go through another winless run like they did back in August. But moving on, in the next match, we got Chicago versus Charlotte FC, as this game will start at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. The Fire 11-2 and 17, while Charlotte 9-8 and 14. And in terms of the all-time meeting, there's only been one prior meeting which Chicago was able to win 3-2 against Charlotte, and that is definitely a painful loss for Charlotte FC, because if they actually got a win in that one at that point, was a playoff 6-pointer, probably would have been in a better position right now in the playoffs instead of being in a fringe playoff hole. Though that being said, for the Chicago Fire, yeah, they are pretty much on the doorstep of being eliminated. They'll be eliminated if they lose or draw this game, and the Crew get a win in their matchup over the weekend. Whereas for Charlotte FC, they're 6 points back off the playoffs, but they do have a game in hand, so they can close within 3 points in terms of the playoff line. But like I said, for Charlotte, they still have some really tough games coming up. The Union is one of the teams that they are facing, and then they're facing NYCFC on the final day of the season. So yeah, they don't have a lot of odds in terms of getting wins to keep their playoff hopes alive, and especially we know that this team has not done well this season on the road. Only two win on the road this season, and against a Fire team that they're not giving up just yet. Even though their playoff hope is all but dead, they're still trying to win games so that they can keep alive in the playoffs, and we'll see whether or not if they can keep alive for another week in this match against Charlotte. But now moving on, in the next match, we got Sporting KC versus Minnesota United. That will start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. All-time meeting, it's a 10-4 and 6 all-time meeting that Sporting KC has against Minnesota. But in terms of whenever the Loons play against Sporting KC, it's an automatic L. I mean, I know Sporting KC is getting close to being eliminated. In fact, they will be eliminated if they get a loss or a draw, or RSL gets a win or a draw. But the problem for the Loons is that they have yet to win or draw at Children's Mercy Park. In fact, it has not even been close in terms of all these regular season games at Children's Mercy Park. They've been outscored 15-1 in all of these games, and I have a feeling that trend is going to continue, especially with the fact that the Loons will not have Reynoso in this game. I mean, the good news is they're going to get Fragapane back in this one. And remember how I said last time that they get Fragapane back in that LAFC game? I forgot to mention that Franco Fragapane also got 5 yellow cards, so he basically was suspended for yellow card accumulation. So it's kind of a double whammy for him. Not only getting suspended because of a red card, but also getting an additional game because of yellow card accumulation. But obviously, even though he is going to be back in this one, the Loons will also lose a big piece in Reynoso not being available in this one. And yeah, overall, when you look at the starting 11 in this game for the Loons, they're going to be once again very short-handed, and I won't be surprised they might go with the same formation that they went against the Portland Timbers, because hey, you have nothing to lose. Well, I say they have nothing to lose, but they're only like 4 points above the red line, and depending on if the Galaxy does win their game in hand, they could all of a sudden find themselves only like 2 points above the red line. But again, Sporting KC, especially on a short week, and a team that they have never done well when they go on the road, I wouldn't be surprised they're going to lose this game, and that then the focus will really shift in terms of the last two games, because the last two games are probably the most winnable ones for them, going on the road against the Quakes and then finish the season at home against Vancouver. But hey, there is a time for them to make history of finally getting that first win or getting that result against Sporting KC. Now's the time to do so. But what I'm, again, worried about this game is that Adrian Heath is going to try to go rogue Heath mode in this one. He always tends to do it against Sporting KC, and it has backfired every single time. So I'm just praying that's not going to be the case. And for me, I think they should just go with the same formation that they did against the Timbers against Sporting KC, because it worked well in that game. I mean, yes, they did lose that one, but for the most part, it actually worked well, and they were actually the better team. So why not do the same thing against a Sporting KC side that, again, this is a team that is clearly playing spoiler, and they're doing a very good job in terms of it. for the last couple of weeks. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 5 games to finish off the Saturday action of match week number 31. So moving on, in the next match, we got Austin FC versus Nashville SC, and remember last time I talked about when Nashville play against Austin, and I feel like it's a mouth-watering matchup? It's going to be the case again. Though this is the first time that both of these teams are meeting at Q2 Stadium, as I mentioned in one of the key points. And this game will start at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 8:08 p.m. local time. And so far, in terms of this mouth-watering matchup and a matchup between two MVP player in Hani Mukhtar and Sebastian Driussi, so far it's been Mukhtar and his team that gets the better of Driussi. Austin FC team with a 2-0-0 record. But, the other thing that I want to mention about Nashville is that they are 6 points above the red line right now. And that, again, they themselves, even though they're 6 points above the red line, you got to remember the Galaxy does have a game in hand over a lot of teams that is above the red line. So, theoretically, they're actually only 3 points above the red line if the Galaxy does get that game in hand win. And, they're also another team that is trying to stay alive in that crucial 4th place position. I mean, I talked about how that 4th place position is just as important as the 7th place position in the playoff race, because that's the last spot in terms of hosting at least one playoff game at home. And that for Nashville, I don't know if that's something that they want to do, because they have struggled so much at Geodis Park. I guess they won't. They don't really care if they do play at home or not. I mean, ideally they want to play on the road, and we'll see whether their incredible road form can continue in this game against Austin. And Austin wanted to have some revenge in this one, and especially for Sebastian Driussi too. I mean, Driussi, he has definitely heard the whisper about how Mukhtar is better than him, and he's gonna win most likely gonna win the MVP. And after for pretty much the whole season, he's been kind of the leading MVP candidate. He's trying to turn the narrative, and we'll see whether if he can have a big performance in this game, just like how Mukhtar had it against Austin last time. And yeah, we'll see how this matchup is going to be. It should be a very good matchup, and a matchup that I won't be surprised we might see some goals, because anytime when there's an Austin game, that there's going to be a lot of goals that could be scored. But now moving on to the next match is RSL versus FC Cincinnati, as this game will start at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. All-time meeting in terms of this, they only met once in the prior meeting, which RSL was able to win. But the important thing about this matchup is that I'm pretty sure a lot of team, again, anytime when you're a team that is just above the red line, you're going to have a lot of team that is either above you or below you that is going to be rooting against you. So, and if you're a Portland Timbers fan, if you're a Minnesota United fan, if you're an LA Galaxy fan, or even a Seattle Sounders fan, you're going to be rooting for FC Cincinnati in this one. But likewise, for FC Cincinnati, they're also another team that is kind of just above the red line. And that, again, I feel like this is kind of one of those matchups where, if you're a Western Conference team and you're fighting for playoffs, you're definitely rooting for the Eastern Conference team to win. But if you're the Eastern Conference team that is fighting for playoffs, you're definitely rooting for RSL to get the win. So it's going to be very fascinating to see how this game is going to be. I mean, in terms of who really need this one the most, I gotta say it has to be RSL. I mean, for RSL, they took a big gamble on Wednesday when Pablo Mastroeni strangely decided to kind of sit his starters and decided to maybe put the eggs in all eggs in one basket in terms of getting home wins, and this is definitely one. And that if they don't do so in this game, then they basically just made the same mistake that Minnesota United did and Adrian Heath did just a couple of weeks ago. So it's a massive game for RSL. It's a must-win game, you would say, for them, because otherwise, if they don't win this one and they drop points again at American First Field, yes, I finally got the name right up. I'm going to try my best to stop calling it Rio Tinto Stadium, even though, again, I think that place will always forever known as the Riot for RSL fans. But yeah, this is a big game for RSL. They need to get a win in this one. But the same goes with FC Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati has not been an easy team to beat, especially on the road. We know that they've been doing much better on the road this season compared to at home, which, again, this is why it's kind of strange. Why did RSL decide to punt the game in the middle of the week when you realize that, yeah, the next game you have is not going to be easy either way. And while that game is at home, you're basically adding yourself more pressure now that you have to get this win at home if you want to make sure you you stay above the red line and also pray that the Galaxy can not win that game in hand. That basically is the reason why they're not controlling their own playoff destiny, even if they're above the red line right now. Now, moving on in the next match, we got the Vancouver Whitecaps versus the Seattle Sounders. So speaking of which, these are two teams that are kind of fighting for playoffs. I mean, for the Seattle Sounders case, they're definitely well and truly in it. Whereas for the Vancouver Whitecaps, they're pretty much kind of out of it. I mean, they're way far behind, and I think they will be eliminated if they don't get a result in this one. But this game will start at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:08 p.m. local time. The Sounders have an 18-10-7 record over the Whitecaps, and like I said, for the Whitecaps, well, actually, I didn't roll it on here, but I think they will be eliminated if they don't get a win in this one. But for the Sounders, they're truly alive in this one. Like, they're 4 points below the red line right now, but they do have that game in hand over RSL. Now, the bad news is the team that is ahead of them, the Galaxy, also have that game in hand, so they also need to pray that the Galaxy would not win their game in hand so they can leapfrog them. But with the way that the Sounders have definitely rejuvenated themselves in these last couple of games, I wouldn't be surprised they might get a win in this one, and especially they have done well against the Vancouver Whitecaps recently, though not really on the road this season. But this is a team that when this team is going to have their crazy second half resurgence, or in this case, a very late second half resurgence that Brian Schmidt's team is going on. This team is almost unstoppable, and this is definitely a team that wants to get above the red line, and if they get a win in this one, they put more pressure in terms of the teams that is ahead of them, because now the team ahead of them needs to keep up pace if they want to fight for those playoff races. Speaking of one of those teams, that team is the LA Galaxy. So they play against the Colorado Rapids, and like what I said about New England, they need a big bounce back in this one, and this also is kind of a must-win for them. As the Galaxy 11-7-12, while the Colorado Rapids 10-9-2. As this game will start at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. All-time meeting, the Galaxy have a 44-12-33 record over the Rapids, but for the Galaxy, like I said, it's kind of a must-win for them, even though I know they still control their own destiny right now, and they have a free point, or they're 3 point below the red line. You just got to think that after that performance in the last game against the Whitecaps, where they were as flat as it gets and their finishing was absolutely terrible, and they're playing at home in this game against a team that does not do well on the road, anything but 3 points will be considered a huge disappointment in the Galaxy fan base. Whereas for Colorado, in some way they also kind of are in a must-win situation. I mean, simply if they don't win in this game, and that if RSL also get a win in their game against FC Cincinnati, they're basically eliminated from the playoffs. But I'm pretty sure a Rapids fan knows that they're probably long been eliminated for the playoffs, unless they're gonna try to do what they did a couple of years ago. Remember when the Rapids were always so close of getting eliminated, and yet it only took until the final day of the season when that, of course, was confirmed? Feels like the Colorado Rapids are trying to do the same thing again. They're not gonna go down without a fight, and I'm pretty sure that's gonna be the case in this one, trying to change the narrative of this season, which is a team that just cannot win on the road. But Galaxy fans are hoping that that's not the case, because like I said, they need to get a win in this one, and especially after this game, I believe they do have that game in hand against the San Jose Earthquakes, as they play them at Stanford Stadium for the Cali Clasico. Oh boy, that is definitely a game that is, again, going to be a must-win game for the Galaxy, but probably they don't want to get to a point where, they might lost their control of their own destiny because they drop points in this one and have to rely on the Cali Clasico game at Stanford Stadium as a must-win game. Yeah, they better win this one if you're a Galaxy fans, and hoping for them to go back above the red line. But moving on into the last game on this board, we got the San Jose Earthquakes versus FC Dallas. That will start at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. The Quakes 7-9-14, while Dallas 13-10-8. In terms of the all-time meeting, the Quakes do still have the all-time meeting over FC Dallas 29-19 and 21. The Quakes, of course, already eliminated from the playoffs. Whereas for Dallas, they have a 9-point lead above the red line, and they're pretty close in terms of clinching for the playoffs. I believe they're probably not there yet, even if they get a win in this weekend's action. But in terms terms of this game. They also finally snapped a winless streak against the Quakes. Like, you know, it's been a while since Dallas was able to get a win against the Quakes, and the last home game they were finally able to snap out of that streak. Though now they're going to try to snap out another streak, which is them not beating the Quakes in a long time on the road. I mean, I don't even remember the last time FC Dallas was able to get a win on the road against the Quakes, and we'll see whether they can do so. I mean, you could say that this might be the best opportunity to do so against a Quakes team that is not having a good season. But again, for the Quakes, even though I know down the stretch they had some bad resort, there's been some resort, especially at home, that they have made themselves a very tough team to beat. So we'll see whether if that is going to be one of those times. But you know, again, for FC Dallas, they want to get themselves closer in terms of making the playoffs, but also get that home field advantage, because they're kind of pulling away a little bit in terms of those home field advantage in that third spot. But if they want to do so, then they need to get a win in this one against a struggling Quakes team. But there we have it. That is pretty much it for the preview of all 11 games that's going to be happening on Saturday. Like I said, I will be doing the preview for the 3 games that's going to be happening on Sunday. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.